Greetings, scholars. Today, the presentation is going to be on the Freedmen experience. And I know this slide is very entertaining and colorful, so we're going to move on. Here are the essential questions for today. You're going to be able to answer these questions after this PowerPoint. If you'd like to write these down in your notebook, leave some space, and then after the presentation or when you're studying for your test, come back and review these questions, see if you can answer these questions. If you can, then you're good to go. What were the difficulties facing freedmen? Okay, these slaves, these former slaves, are out into the real world now. What difficulties are they going to face? What was the Freedmen's Bureau, and how did it help? Okay, so we're going to figure out what this Freedmen's Bureau is, what it did, and how it helped these freedmen. And then how does sharecropping and tenant farming systems work? Okay, how do they work? Please just write this stuff in the gold. Try to go with the maroon and gold colors. And the gold is kind of the important stuff I want you to write down. The black is just stuff that is supplemental, and you can add it if you'd like. Okay. First thing, black codes have passed in all these southern states that used to have slavery. These black codes are laws that restricted freedmen's rights. Essentially, they establish a new kind of slavery. Right? For example, whatever is required of them, they must present licenses, they cannot carry firearms, whenever they commit an offense, they're either fined or imprisoned. If you can't pay these fines or these costs, then you're hired. You're hired by some sort of farmer, a plantation owner. So now think about it. These freedmen, they really don't have any money. If you happen to break a law, such as the terrible law of not presenting a license, say you forgot it at your house, and you can't pay these fines because you're already poor, you're already broke, you have to go and work on a plantation. So essentially, these southern states are enacting a new form of slavery because they're just getting trapped on these plantations. Types of black codes. Curfews. Okay, you cannot gather after sunset. Vagrancy. If you're not working, you can be fined, whipped, sold for labor. Labor contracts. You have to sign a yearly agreement, and if you quit, you do not get paid. So workers would tend, or plantation owners would tend to have easy labor or mediocre, not very difficult labor right away in the year, and towards the end of the year they really make it very strenuous, very difficult, hoping that the workers would leave so then they would not get their pay. And also they had land restrictions. You could only rent in rural areas, and it kind of restricts them again to the plantation. If you're only going to be in rural areas, you're going to be right next to these plantations that you just left. They're going to be the areas where you're probably going to work because you're going to be able to walk there. And all these black codes again are pushing the former slaves back to the plantations, back to the country. Freedmen's Bureau. Freedmen's Bureau was established in 1865, and it's essentially a government agency to help these newly freed slaves, okay, to help these freedmen. Okay, it's a bunch of white northerners that go to the south to help these freedmen. White southerners aren't going to want to help these freedmen because they're slave owners. They still have very racist feelings, a lot of animosity toward these freedmen. So a lot of white northerners are going to go south to help these people. Essentially, they create churches, schools, they feed these freedmen, give them medical assistance, essentially helping these freedmen bridge that gap from slavery to this kind of new economy, this new economic system that they have, this new society that they have to be a part of. Alright, sharecropping. Sharecroppers, they farm a portion of the owner's land, and they're promised part of the yield. So they farm a little section of it, and then they promise 10% of the yield at the end of the year. Examples of sharecropping and tenant farming. Southern cotton production in 1860.